All right. Good morning. It is still morning here on the West Coast, and unfortunately, we lost an hour last night due to daylight savings. And I love it when we go back to standard time because it's like, oh, I gain an hour. Oh, I've got more time to, get all this stuff, or I can get more sleep, or you kind of relish that extra hour. But, when we go to daylight savings time, you lose that hour. And so, right now I'm looking at my clock and it says it's 9:29. It's almost 9:30 a.m. But, you know, I know and that the real time is actually 8:30. I mean, it's like, what is time anyways? Really? Is it I mean, if we can just even really like, for whatever reason, the collective decides that we need to like adjust what naturally happens in order to have, I don't know, squeeze more labor out of us for pay that's really not enough. And, you know, and then the cycle goes on and on. So I think, like, deep down, I'm just a little bit bitter about the fact that we have lost an hour today. Uh, I see I have three people that have joined. Welcome. I don't know if you're going to say anything in the chat, but you're welcome to participate in the dialogue of the conversation. I thought maybe I kind of like lately I've been doing kind of like a cold opening because even though I'm live streaming now, um, I think that when you start off with, a bunch of music or you're waiting for people to join on a live stream or whatever, it's like, you know, sometimes I like when I watch other people's shows, I'm like, all right, just get on with it. Like, what is the reason why I, would even be listening to this, right? So here's what probably you're going to expect for the rest of this live stream. All right. One is a lot of things have taken place um, since I did my last live stream. And I did pull that live stream off of YouTube and now it's on Rumble. I did make like, I don't know if I tweeted about, I mean, not tweet, but I might have, I don't think I X'd it. I just think I made an announcement here on my community page. I also wrote something on my community page that I know I even know that it's been shared, and I want to discuss that a little bit as well. There's also a Dregs of YouTube 2 video that went up. I looked at it last night that I want to also talk about and address because it's like one of my professors that I have, and I think I've mentioned this in a previous live stream. He says this a lot. He says the truth will set you free and will tell you who you are. And I guess I say it a lot because I really believe that. Like, that's really him saying that really touched me, and it really resonates with me. The truth will set you free. I mean, isn't that something like Martin Luther King Jr. said? The truth will set you free. I mean, it's like a phrase that I think a lot of us, I mean, it's almost like, I don't know if it's a Western phrase, like an American thing, but I think just like we care about truth, like John Lennon, give me some truth. All I wanted is a little truth. I just want some truth. And for me, like what is going on this pocket of YouTube, for me, it's been about trying to figure out what the truth of it all is. Our president, there was a State of the Union. I forgive me for this, but I missed watching it. Like, there was one point where I was texting my mom, and then she says, "Oh, well, we're listening." She let me know that they were watching the president's State of the Union. And I think I text something back like, "Oh, enjoy," and I've been so busy. I couldn't even stop and put it on, really. Yesterday I went to a tutor expo, which, took most of the day. Had to get up early. It wasn't just like a regular Saturday. Um, it's a requirement. It's part of every once a month we have a mandatory meeting, and usually it's on campus for a few hours, but this was like also once a year. There's a tutor expo that takes place with all of the junior colleges that are affiliated with the tutoring job. And so I did that yesterday. And what was really interesting about that I want to share with you is that the theme of it was AI, artificial intelligence, and how to incorporate that as a tutor, like making lessons plans and stuff like this, or graphics, and also using it as a teaching tool for the student. For example, I sat in on a class about not ARG, but the like the glasses, the gamer glasses, right? That now they're using, going into that ARG, the not the it's not a game, but like gamers do it, right? I'm virtual reality, right? In incorporating that in your sessions. And now, like, a student can, if they want to, they can grab a molecule and pull it apart and look at all the different parts. Or let's say you're learning anatomy, they can virtually hold and examine the bone. And I thought that was like, that's really fascinating to me. I knew that we were working on getting a grant to get the glasses to do this at the college. And right away, I thought that was like, I'm like, cool. I know that probably that sounds like, oh, you're getting involved with AI and this and that. I'm like, well, fact of the matter is, it's the same thing as like when Facebook came on the scene, and, people were like, oh, don't, that's social media. There's always this kind of resistance sometimes from people that are, when something new happens. But the reality is that if you don't have a Facebook page, you really don't have a business. And like, the social media apps are, a way of it's a connection to the business, to product, to whatever, right? It's not just, if you look at things, it's not just about like, oh, we're all connecting, or, oh, I can have a sock puppet account and I control somebody, which also does happen on social media. There's so many different, dynamics to what can happen to social media, and how social media affects people's lives. So it's the same thing with, like, Facebook tried to do the Meta thing, right? It kind of flopped because I don't think that if you Facebook is an older generation. It's not young anymore. It started out in college with college students, but now Facebook is for somebody who is 40 plus, right? And then, Instagram has, although Facebook owns Instagram and also owns Threads, Instagram has a younger demographic. You have millennials and, a lot of college students use Instagram or they use Snapchat or they're on TikTok, and X also, has, I don't know, I'm not sure about X, but obviously X has been around a long time. And so, and get this, our news sources are now found on social media. They are the biggest proponent. If you, I've had these discussions in my classes. They're teaching us to understand, where do we take the news to? And it is social media. I mean, just ask yourself, like, where do you find your information at? Is it on YouTube? Like, what person do we think is actually really credible in what they're talking about? Right? Like, this pocket that somehow I have like found myself in, right? I don't think I think most people aren't telling the truth, or they know the truth and or some of the truth, and they do things to maybe even throw it off, or they sit on it, or maybe they only know part of what's going on. I think that a lot of people, I mean, from what I can hear from some of you that I've met and I've had conversations with you, I know how you found yourself here in this area. You know, either we got something happened in the news, and then there was something, it was being talked about it in a different way online, and you were seeing people doing X posts about it. And, somehow it led us into, watching Hoax, or, watching Sewertown, or listening to Denise, or, listening to Tams or whatever. And then, seeing that there is like a whole nother other thing going on. Right. And then you have these other people that I think just they do videos about people and they make them look, it's like there's a definite style to how the whole thing plays out on YouTube. And it's almost like you've now become a character, like, you've been cast. Maybe you didn't want that role, but the producers said, no, you're playing this. And you get, these labels and things and stuff happens and, whatever. And sometimes I'm thinking that maybe the people that are making the videos, probably when they're making them, even about me, they're probably laughing their ass off. Right? I mean, I can see it, like, I mean, because you don't just like when you make a video, when you make anything, right? Like right now, I'm taking filmmaking too, which I got to work on something soon. I've got the layout, my shots, right? You're telling a story, or if you're doing a tutorial, you plan out your shots of how you are going to tell that story in a way that maybe is even entertaining, but the person got that information of what you're saying. And, I mean, I'm sure like some of the people that do this are probably amateurs. We're all amateurs. We all start out an amateur. Every professional starts out an amateur, right? every musician or every comedian at one point was an actor, was an amateur until they got paid, basically. when you sell a painting, you're in business. It's the first one. It's the first paycheck. My first gig I got paid for in was at the Bicycle Club in Los Angeles, and I made $10 from my set. Check written out to me for $10. You know, but I don't know. It just makes me think about, time and energy spent when you decide to stream or talk about something, or you might have to put your makeup on to, like, if you want to put yourself on camera as a woman, like for me, when I do my videos and stuff, like, I've got a background behind me that I hope looks, aesthetically pleasing, and I have an O-ring light on me so that I'm, well lit. Like there's I might be talking about something that is about this world, you know? But I mean, even now, me talking right now, I could be doing something else, right? And, that I need to do or whatever. But I'm here because I feel like I have something to say. That I'm wanting to share my thoughts about what is going on, even what's going on in the world. Because I think maybe you're thinking the same thing. Like, I mentioned my mom and the State of the Union, right, with the president, and I haven't even watched. I barely watched anybody's commentary on it. Like, I've seen some posts on Facebook, and I'm seeing this picture of Joe Biden, like, looking like he's crazy in the camera, and then, like, you got Kamala Harris back looking all stoic, like, yeah, we're gonna kick your ass, and this other guy, and I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? Like, I'm even afraid to listen to it. Like when I first woke up, I was like, no, not that. Let me watch David Schurter instead. Like, I'm like, I would prefer to watch David Schurter over, like, what that horrific whatever's going on might be happening. That's kind of like how I feel right now. So I don't know. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like, oh, I'd rather watch David Schurter than Joe Biden on the State of the Union? I'm making a joke about it, but in my mind, I'm like, it might as well be David Schurter up there because it's like the same guy, right? Like, seriously, like Biden's expressions is often like some of the freeze frame that you see David Schurter doing. And it's like, I feel like, has the world gone crazy? Like, I think about, is humanity just absolutely lost it right now? It's like, you might as well just sit back and, like, have some, like, Folgers Crystals, like, instant coffee and live stream on YouTube and go, is everything crazy? Like I see it, like, I'm like, what is happening? What is happening to the United States? Like, it's shocking to me. And yeah, I am an older person. I've been on the planet since 1962. And my mom's been on the planet since 1942. She lived when she had the radio. There wasn't even a television set yet. However, now I can just briefly look at my Facebook page and look at a picture of Biden that's grimacing like David Schurter and go, oh my God. Oh, woo! Let me sit down for a moment. I don't know what's going on here. However, however, from some of the captions that I've looked around, there is this race issue that's going on. And, there's this accusation from the left saying, well, if the right does, supports Trump, basically, then they are all associated to that white supremacist group that a lot of people here in this community are accusing people of being. Right? And it's like, oh, so this, I was going to say, this morning, right now, when we miss an hour, I mean, hell, we missed an hour. I might as well just say what I really think. We're forced into daylight savings time. So, hey, let me just say my piece here. But when you are dividing the country in groups of, either being a racist or not a racist, it's kind of like the Civil War again. That's like the North and the South. So, one of the things I learned on my Africana Studies class is that, when we came over to this land and, established ourselves here, which wasn't really our land in the first place, I mean, it just seems like humans just, since the beginning of our existence, once we became collective in a group, a tribe, we always feel that our tribe deserves to have everything, and and we are the king of the entire world. I think is kind of like how I think like things play out, right? Like, you can bring it down to this community, even. Like, well, what group are you in? Oh, their group, or their group, or their group, or what? Those people are the people that are like the people that aren't, right? I mean, we're based on competition. I mean, I should know. I've competed at, I started competing in the Peach Blossom Festival, where I the thing is to recite a poem, and you get, awarded superior or whatever by, city council members and, professors and this and that. And I did that starting in third grade. And then, I ended up, competing in a stand-up comedy show called Last Comic Standing, with doing stand-up art forms, the best of the best, right? The Olympics, woo! I mean, don't you love it? Don't you love it when, I mean, I love ice skating, and always, like, I still remember that image when Brian Botano finished his skate, and he, I think he like he kissed his lips, and you just saw his face, and he knew he did it. He knew he did it before the judges gave him the score. Like, he knew he skated that perfect skate that he saw in his head, that when he tried and sometimes failed and sometimes almost make it and sometimes fell down and got back up again, but then eventually he knew, oh my God, I did it and I'm here. Right? I mean, I used to see that in my head about stand-up. Like, sometimes, like, you fall down. Sometimes you got to get back up and, like, start skating again. Got to ride the bull. It's like, how did I lose that? Where did I make a mistake? What would I do if something like that happened the last time? It's like learning how to deal with the myriad of situations that might be thrown at you. And then when you're able to toss that ball over and over and over again, and you have a set constructed, and you come in with that act, and you know that a certain joke should get an applause break. And if you do it really good when you walk off, people are going to go, woo, when you walk off, right? You're going to get that. Okay. And then you know what technically where you're trying to reach. And when you have a really good audience, it's just like, it's like riding a wave. I don't even know how like to describe it, because I think like you don't really know what that feels like unless you are a stand-up comedian. And I think that's what binds us. It doesn't like, because like in comedy, race doesn't matter. It may matter in how, well you're going to do in a certain type of crowd, and what they might think their stereotypical think of what they think you should be doing as a funny person. And if you break what their concept is of what they think that you should be saying and how you should be acting, because that's who you are, if you're playing to that crowd, that might, you might not get woo, but you might still get some laughs. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, but I still broke the ice. And then you realize that you start to break the ice a little bit better, and more and more and more. And then you become a Dave Chappelle. See? I really believe that, one of the reasons why I want to get a degree in digital journalism is because movies, film, a news broadcast, an image shot with your camera, that, like the little boy running in Thailand with the look of horror, with crying with bombs all around him. And you're like, oh my God, we have to stop this. We have to stop. What are we doing? Those are the things that matter. In the end, that changes us as a group, as a collective. And here I'm using a group situation. But what each of us does affects another life. Maybe even affects the entire world in some way. Like the butterfly effect. It could be so small. It's so great. Or we can do the exact opposite of that and destroy. And so I mean, I feel like I have a body of work that I've done on the internet for a very long time. Very long time. Like, honestly, I was in the first sitcom ever on the internet. I mean, it's not there anymore. It was when the internet was just pictures and text. There was at the very beginning, when the internet started, when people started to like want to follow a story, there was this like soap opera where they cast people and they took pictures and they wrote stories about them. It was like a picture, and then you would read the thing, and it got really, really popular. And then so there was a man named Vic Dunlap, who's a comedian. He started in, the Make Me Laugh, when the original show with Bruce Baum and Bill Kirchenbauer, right? When comedy really was like, that's the genesis of the road happening in the 80s and everything, when the comedy clubs actually started to sprout up, was like based really on that show and these guys. So Vic, I still remember it, and what's really odd about it, it was like I was working a club in Richland, Washington, which that Richland area, where they even like the atomic, like some of the atomic bomb was like created there and everything, right? I didn't know it then, right? But when I would go say I was going to work there, like the other comics would go, don't drink the water, okay? Don't. I'm like, what? Like, just don't drink the water. It's not good. I'm like, okay, I was just and this, we didn't have cell phones then. We didn't have GPS. We had to like look at maps and shit, right? And I got there and I had an answering machine, so I would call, and I would never do this again because this was a different time. I trusted people, right? But I used to like leave an outgoing message and go, I'm in, Richland, Washington at hotel blank, 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 blank here. Here's my phone number, room blank. And oh wow. And then my manager at the time, Harry Capehart, was friends with Vic Dunlap, and he goes, I'm looking for certain types of comedians, because it was really about your look, really, at that for that, really, right? Your genre, your demographic, and then, whatever story they wanted to write around that. But if you were funny too, that was a plus, because he was wanting to take us into like an actual tour. And he goes, can you recommend me someone? And I got recommended. And so like I get this phone call in my hotel room, and I'm like, hi. And he goes, Terry Joyce. And I'm like, yes. And he goes, Vic Dunlap. And I go, oh, hi. And he goes, yeah, Harry Capehart gave me your number. So maybe he didn't get it from my, message machine, but, that's how I remember it, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, I'm doing this sitcom on the internet. Ever heard of the World Wide Web? And I'm like, yes, I have. And he goes, oh, well, we're going to be doing the show. We'll be the first comedy show ever on the internet. And I was like, okay. So I did. And at the time, I was really goth looking. Like, I had the Janine Garofalo sort of, industrial boots kind of thing going on. And I was into Nine Inch Nails, and I was fascinated by people with piercings, and and I'd done some extra work on Strange Days. I was doing a lot of extra work on movie sets, and it was just kind of, it was fun. It was quirky, and I brought in some of my friends, also played characters in my story, right? But that's how far back that I have done something or been involved in some sort of creative project that's on the internet. Oh, by the way, also Judy Tenuta was a character on that show as well. Woman named Ludovica. That's she's done like a lot of Telemundo parts. And a very funny comedian. I mean, a lot of us ended up really having pretty good careers. I mean, I consider myself to have had a pretty good career. I had a career in comedy that most people who I knew and still didn't do like that I did on Last Comic Standing. Like, I mean, I hear like a lot of you guys go, oh, she's a failed comedian. But like at that time, I was the criminal. I was the criminal of the crime. I was like the cream of the crop on that show in America. And as being, these are the people that are the next big stars. These are the people, like, that we would consider building a sitcom around, because the prize was $100,000 and a development deal, which puts you under contract for them to make a sitcom around you. Now, they also get off the hook too, because if they don't make a sitcom about you, then but you got money from the development deal. It was $100,000 development deal is what it was basically. And on my season, Dat Fan was the winner, but that's interesting how that played out too. I mean, I could talk about that quite a bit in depth, because, like, in my opinion, I feel like Ralphie May should have been the winner. I mean, he was really like something else back then. Like, he would just come out and go, wah, 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 wah. You know what I'm saying? He had that swagger, and yes, and then he would throw the mic down, and then he would walk off. And like, the crowd would just go crazy. And I became friends with Ralphie from that show. Like, like, when we were on the show, like, one time he goes, "Come over here." I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "I smoked weed on the set." I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Where?" And he goes, "I found this area out there back there where there's no camera, and I smoked myself a joint." Oh god. But Gabriel Iglesias gets kicked off his season because he was saying, he had a BlackBerry that he was communicating with his girlfriend with, right? I mean, I always wondered, like, oh, did they not see him smoking weed out there, but they didn't care? You know? First of all, when I talk about the BlackBerry, like, when we went to go live in the house, if you had a cell phone at that time, I didn't have one, but some people did. You had to surrender them when you were, like, living in the house and they were taping the show, because you could not have any outside communication. You could not, because it's going to air later. You could not let anybody on the outside know, like, who made it to the house, or who was being eliminated by each week or whatever. Like, you violated the show basically. And those people that did know that you were in the house, like maybe your mom or my brother or something like that, that myself on the show wanted to call, if I called them from their phone that they had there, I had to say, "I'm on the set right now, and so I have to ask you if it's okay that everything that we speak about is recorded and maybe used on the show." And then if the person said yes, right, then they, you would see a scene of me talking to my mom. That's kind of like how it was, when we were, like, on the show. And I've had that experience in my life. Like, I know what it's like to, actually live in a house on camera with, 9 other comedians. And the game of the show is set up for us to have alliances with other people to take other people down. It's like, who killed my battleship, right? It was like, the whole premise of Last Comic Standing is survival of the fittest. It's survival. They're all the same, right? In how the show is constructed. And the camera is there to capture the social dynamics of the alliance, like Big Brother or whatever. So there's always groups. See, I'm bringing this back to the group discussion that when I started, this live stream, speaking with you on the first day of daylight savings, and we lost an hour, and I think it sucks. But there's always a group dynamic. Like right now, the president speaking to the United States, and it's that group, and that group is blank. And if you don't blank, and if they need to be done with. We need to take care of these people. They are the scourge of the United States. And it's another political party. But it's a tactic, right? I mean, come on, let's admit it. Let's put our big adult pants on and say that's a tactic, and we do it, and it's done to us over and over and over again. But what's the truth in all of that? What's the truth? Hi, Charles. What's the truth? I'm not a very good group person. I'm not. I never have been, and I think that's why that's been a problem for me ever since childhood. Ever since childhood. Cuz it's like if you're not really a group person, it's like the people that like belong to the groups go, that person needs to be dealt with. Right? They're either in our group or they're not in our group. We got to get them in our group or we got to put them in their group. But don't let them be thinking on their own and not wanting to be associated in any group. And, the comedian Rick Overton, after I've been on Last Comic Standing, and, because I've known him since I was about 25 years old. And he said to me, he says, how did you stay on that show so long? He says, because you never played the game. You never played the game. How did you stay on that long? And I go, I don't know. Like, I looked at him, I go, I don't know how it happened. It was almost like he was like impressed with that. And I'm like, and I still think about that because I never realized I didn't play a game. I didn't realize there was a game being played. I didn't realize there was a game that I was just being me. And I kind of like witnessed like people's reaction to that on a bigger level too, because some people just couldn't take it. They hated me for it. I couldn't I'm like, wow, what's going on here? And I read these awful things on the internet about me. And some of it was like just like really absurd. And I would call my mom up and I go, oh my God, Mom, they're saying these things about me. And she goes, stop looking at the internet. I'm like, okay, I will. I'll just, I'll just stop looking at it, And then one time my mom looked at it and she came back, she said, oh my God, Tara, I laughed so hard. It was hilarious. These people are so stupid. It's stupid. Okay. And I laughed too, because like some time had passed and I had acclimated to being there, to dealing with it. Like you acclimate to it, really. You're like, okay, I can't, it's just gonna happen. It happens to everybody. I ran into Ant, Ant the comedian. I've been friends with him, since the 90s. Okay. Ant booked me in the first gay club that I ever played. Ant did. And that happened because I answered an ad in Dramalog, and it was like, he was Ant with entertainment. And I called and he said, have you ever played a gay club before? And I said, no. And he goes, well, this will be your first time. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, you're going to be on, Sherry Shepherd's going to be there. It'll be you, me, Sherry Shepherd. And I was like, okay. And yeah, Sherry Shepherd. Yes. It is the Sherry Shepherd. Yes. So performed and did well and came back regularly, or he booked me regularly for a while. And my brother would come down and support me, want to watch or whatever. And Aunt just thought my brother was beautiful. And, I was like, so every time I would run into him, he goes, "How's your brother?" I go, "Oh, well, he's whatever. And he's is he gay yet?" I go, "No." And he goes, "Oh," and then like, wait, because he was on my season. We were on the same season of Last Comic Standing together. And what was interesting about Ant is that, see, the producer of Last Comic Standing was Peter Engel, the main producer, and then executive producer was Jay Moore, and then Jay Moore was the host of our season. And Peter Engel did Saved by the Bell. See, and some of the studios that we used during our competitions, we would be in, like, I was in the dressing room that was Tiffany. How do you say her last name? Neeson? Anyway, one of the characters, and so Ant had done a couple of parts on Saved by the Bell. And then so they were, see, the whole thing about Last Comic Standing is like, oh, we searched all these people all over, the country, and these are the funniest people in America. Okay, well, there's a little bit more to it than that. There were people that NBC already had a mark on as when it maybe being a possible character on the. And I say character because we were like characters. We were cast, basically. I mean, yeah, you had to be the funniest. You had to be funny. You had to be funny, and you had to like have the chops. But they cast a house, the comedians, and they're interested in hitting every demographic. And you just have to be the best in your demographic. Is how I looked at it. So, but Ant also was one of those people. Ralphie May was one of those people. Everybody that was in the house, who came from LA area, was in there because they looked at 50 comedians. Like, they first looked at 50 comedians picked out by managers that they felt were the best or the right they would and they auditioned for them in like a closed, like Ant wasn't Ant or Ralphie May and Tess Drake, and also Sean Kent, because he was from LA area too, and me. They were not auditioned from being in the cattle call line, with a number on them, but I was. So I was the only person that made it to the top 10 that was not pushed by a manager. So, like, I think out of the entire competition, I was the only person that was the show, really, in a sense. But a lot of people think that it was like some sort of amateur search, like, American Idol or something like that. But none of us that actually, and Dat Fan was one of those people that were already kind of pre-picked almost. So, who was the winner, ended up being the winner. So almost everybody that was was there, we had all been working for at least 3 or 4 years as a professional stand-up comedian, and all of us had already been on tour around the United States. I had actually been accepted in the San Francisco competition and did that before I did audition for Last Comic Standing. So yeah, it was the whole thing that what I'm and like saying about it, because after that show happened, I was, like, recognized on the street. Like, when that show was going on, I woke up in the morning and I was walking down to a, convenience store, because I think I wanted to pick up a pack of cigarettes, and, a car literally stopped and rolled their window down, and he says and I didn't have makeup on or anything, and he was like, "Are you that girl on that show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." I mean, like, it was like I would, be on a plane and one of the stewardess would wanna sit down, like, during the flight and ask me about the show and ask me, like, what was it like, or who did I think shoulda won or whatever? Because like so it was like that for me for a while, and then I had this internet thing going on where people were talking crap about me on the internet, about what they thought I was on the show, and then I ran into Ant again, and he goes, "How are you doing?" And after it and everything, and I go, "Yeah, but I'm people are just saying these awful things on the internet." And he goes, "Oh, you've never been famous before." And I go, "No, I have not. I have not. No, of course not." And he goes, "Oh, well, that's just part of it. Like, that's just part of it. Like, people are gonna like say bad things about you just as much as they're gonna say good things about you, just as much as they're gonna buy a ticket to watch your movie. Like, it's just the way it is. Nobody keeps liking everybody, right? But celebrities are used for influence, you know, and I do think that they are going to use that person who's willing to be bought for that influence, right? And I think what happens was when I was on the show and I didn't play the game, then it was obvious that I wasn't really a game player, you know. I mean, I'm one of those people that go, I want some truth, man. I'm serious about being ethical. I'm serious about looking into two sides of the story. I'm learning, I'm trying to learn how not to be caught up in things. I'm not really a group player. I'm more like a group observer as a person. Like, why are they doing that? What is the dynamic? What is motivating people to collectively want to harm or take down another group or destroy them or kill them or whatever? You know, when I was growing up and I was watching MASH and it was a comedy, I thought that humanity had gone past war and we were like making jokes about it and we would never be like that again. But I realized that that's not real. That's not the truth. It isn't. It isn't the truth. We still blow things up. We still blow up. So when I think about like, in a sense, because you think about movies, you think about like videos and pictures and live streams on YouTube and X posts and Facebook pages and products being sold and people telling you like the right type of like, product to do your oil pulling in on TikTok or laser guns that like you pull on your face that makes your eyebrow higher than the other side, bringing your face back to youth, right? I need to think as a person, what is it that I am putting out to the public? if someone's going to tune in, what is it that I'm going to be speaking that I want them to hear? What is the storyline? What is the truth? How do you tell the truth so people can understand it? How do you ask questions that maybe change people's lives for the better? It's like with great power comes great responsibility, in a sense. Like if you're going to be a publicist and everything, there's ethics to that. I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, there's ethics to journalism that we were taught that, things that we're supposed to do when we are investigating something, like trying to protect if somebody that you feel is vulnerable, you want to like protect their privacy. You don't want to, bring them out that, show their identity so that they might be harmed. You know, and I think what's that one journalist, Seymour? Is that Seymour? No, it's not Seymour Huffman. It's a famous journalist. I'm sorry. I can see his face. Seymour Hirsch, you know, and he plays out in all of this really on the topic of the DNC person that had a file. Let's put it that way. Because even talking about the topic on YouTube is, frowned upon. A lot of controversy around it. But that controversy affects this group. And, when you look at media and you examine it and you feel like, well, that wasn't really the truth, though, was it? Like you knew or someone knew in your group that there was something wrong with it, but you still pushed it. Or you didn't correct yourself about it. Like, for example, if, a news outlet or a journalist gets something wrong, you come out and you say something about it. You correct yourself. We apologize, but we thought because blank, 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 and because blank, blank, blank said blank, we found this to be true at that time. But now with prior knowledge or more information, we realize that we're wrong. That this we believe is the truth. Or they don't say, they just go, we apologize for doing it. And then, the story's dead, right? Because there's a legality to all of that, when it's coming from a news outlet. I think I try. I believe that I've done it. When I get something wrong, I will come out and tell people I was wrong about that. Right? I made a mistake. Oh, I did find David Schurter's interview of Vanessa Bates. I was wrong. Here it is. I want to show you. Here it is. Oh, Terry really doesn't wear a wig anymore. I mean, I have worn wigs before. If you show me a picture and you go, are you wearing a hairpiece there? I'm like, yeah, I was back then. But right now, on Not My Rabbit Hole, like the hair in this picture right here with the rabbit that you see, that's my hair. That is not a wig. So, people might be asking, well, why would you even want to wear a wig if you had hair like that? Well, at the time when I did wear a hairpiece, I had to bleach my hair a lot to get it to be blonde. And sometimes I couldn't get it to be healthy and grow that long. Now I don't bleach my hair anymore, so my hair is just growing. I can add color or whatever, but it's a lot healthier than it was when I was going for what I have naturally now. If that makes any sense, right? And I've been in show business. Like, it's not uncommon for, like when I went to the VH1 big in 2003 event, and was part of that show. I kind of did the Gwen Stefani thing, and I actually put like had a hair piece with a stylist that wove it into my hair to give me that sort of that glamour 1940s kind of style. And I had really short, but before that I had spikes in my hair. So my hair was like fairly short. It had a short cut to it. So I just like having like I've just, I'm an actress. I like having different looks. I grew up in the era of Madonna, Cher, like you could everything's an illusion in really in some ways, in media. You put your makeup on, you have your lighting, you do your hair, it's whatever. You can like, if you look at some of, like, the icons that people, like, look at as, being sexy or whatever, like, a lot of people, like, when Lady Gaga came out, I don't think really Lady Gaga's a pretty woman, but she's able to create the artifice of it. She uses, like, everybody keeps using Marilyn's look, like, if you notice, like, pop stars, they all, like, throw out Marilyn, and, you can fake it. Like, in a way, Mae West kind of, like, that's why Mae West is interesting. She was funny, but she was faking this sort of pseudo stance and, attractiveness, right? That if you really looked at her, she really didn't have. It's sad humanity hasn't evolved in actually taking steps backwards. Yeah, it is sad. Because like, we have all these gurus and everything. That's Charles saying that. That's a good point, Charles. Because we have all these gurus out there saying how we should be and how like I'm finding my divine self and all this kind of stuff. And then but still look at us. Like that's not working. That's not working, is it? I mean, even let's think about all the religions, that we have, and oh, I'm the, I'm going to heaven, and oh, really? Do you think that if you're still in this like mentality that you are fit for the kingdom of heaven? You think the pearly gates are going to open up for us in the state that we're in right now? You tell me. Anyway, I'm gonna like kind of wash the palette here and play just a little bit of music, and then come right back and address some of the issues that I said I was going to address at the beginning of the stream. finally coming back. I'm just like making some more coffee with my like my Folgers crystals. Oh, good to the last drop. Be right back. Okay, so I'm back. All right, so one of my professors said, okay. Yeah, I think at one point Charles thought I was gone until I came back and went, "Oh, I'm just warming up some. I just got to get some more coffee. I need some more coffee for this." Because I think this is probably the part that, people are really wanting to hear me talk about. Not, I mean, like I did do a lot of comparisons. I did a really long setup for what I'm going to discuss. But it all fits in because one of my professors was saying, he says this too, with new information, it changes us. It changes us every day. It makes us different. Even. That's what he says. I think so, because when you get information, sometimes it forces you to step back and say, you know what, there might be like an actual, bigger picture to this situation, like it's larger, you know. It's like that there's a series, it's really good. I've been watching it on Netflix called it's Conspiracy, it's the octopus. Very interesting. I think in a way, like that journalist, like he looked at something and he was like, he thought it was something, and then it grows and it grows, and you're like, oh my God, this is like, it's like a connection, of fabric of something that is happening, right? I'm not saying that I'm not trying to compare this to that. in like this is definitely to the magnitude of that. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that I think that it might be an example of media not really being having integrity. I will say that. And I think it's like, media that because, it is kind of outlaw or it's considered alternative or whatever. And, oh, we have the truth because we're not really playing by the rules of like these people that over here that's mainstream that also abuses it. I mean, let's admit it, it's hard to find a network right now where people are going to be watching that does not have what the right or left political slant. Right? So, and it gets into internet things like WikiLeaks and, Edward Snowden and, Julian Assange and, all these different things and files coming out affecting the election and, trials about it and everything. This is kind of like a new paradigm for people to kind of understand, I think even they don't understand that. I mean, some people don't even they never watch Fox News or anything like that. So they don't even know about, the DNC person that was rumored to have had a special file that made a certain group of people go, "Oh my God, that's even worse." It's like, oh, it's internal. It's like, it's about Bernie Sanders. And, then you have Hillary or the DNC who like, they go, well, we've been hacked, but then they won't turn over their servers to be examined by the FBI. It's like going, oh, my safe was robbed, but you're not opening the door to let them see anybody see that anything was stolen out of your safe. So, it's kind of like, it's laptops, FBI has this person's laptop, you can't look at it for 60 years, all this stuff flying around, like we really haven't recovered from 2017 and what happened there. And then like now we have this happening. It's happening again, but make sure that you get, his mugshot that he's got a fabric of his outfit on that has a limited edition that will make me have value later on. So he like get my playing cards while I have the Supreme Court decide whether I can run or not. And so he's marketing his way all the way up here. Come on. It's like when I saw his mugshot, I actually texted my mom and said, oh my God, I see t-shirts with that on it. I see t-shirts. Maybe I should do one. And my mom goes, oh, Terry, don't make me people angry. No, Trump himself is marketing off of his own shit. Come on. Come on. Because it's all about commerce, right? Oh my goodness. People like, selling their sweat and their farts in a box. It's ridiculous. What have we become? What have we evolved to? Like selling our farts in a jar on eBay or like on Instagram? Anyway, that being said, oh yeah, you saw that somebody posted about the Oculus. Interesting what pops up where Yeah, I mean, of course I subscribe to Netflix, all right? I know, awful. But and they've had some really good stuff like Who Cloned Tyrone. It was a Netflix release, and of course like that had a lot of controversy going on, right? Come on, we are all on YouTube. We know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, and then like Monique was on Club Shay Shay, and Monique's on tour with Cat Williams now. Like there's this like again an alliance. Other people when somebody sees one person over here, going, hey, and they have the courage to do it, and they've had the same thing happen to them, and somebody else goes, And that's how things change. That's how people go, "Oh my god, I didn't know that. Oh, wow. Wow." Okay? So, I'm gonna share a screenshot here. Um, I think this is it right here. Yeah, it's from my Facebook page. Not my Facebook page, but my community post here. And a lot of you maybe have seen it, right? I'm going to let you just kind of look at that. Um I guess I could usually I can only share one thing on StreamYard, so I really can't play any music over it. But maybe I should just talk over it, just like let you read it, or maybe you're paying attention to my words or whatever. But I really kind of, don't want to even really read it out loud. But I will show a little bit more of that. Okay. So maybe I'll just put it right there. Okay. And just, you can read that a little bit. Um, I was, how do I put this? When I made these realizations, it kind of freaked me out, to be honest with you, a little bit. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, and I have to say, I have validated the truth of that happening. I'm hearing different sides of the story, if you will, on um what how it was done, or not. I kind of feel like probably there are people that don't want to take any responsibility for it, really. But again, it is one of those things that happened in American politics. And it involves, validating or justifying, or it's meant for a specific group against another group too, that happened. Because, I think, like, as Americans, we just can't, we're still in the red and blue zone. We still root for our team. It doesn't matter if our team lost last year. But this year we're going to win. I sunk your battleship. I'm president. And I don't think that's a really healthy functioning democracy, really. And I feel like this is a deception in media. Like, it's like we're supposed to be telling people the truth, not like, oh, oops, we messed up about the truth. We're not retracting the story. Why do you think the Ed Butowski, because this article does mention it, if you want to go to my community page, you can like grab the article or search it or whatever. But why was Ed Butowski involved in a story that Fox News had to retract? All right. And if you realize that that happened, then think about like how the people who were around this didn't retract that. Or maybe you want to act like, they really didn't know it was happening when they were involved with it. They didn't understand, or they thought it was something else, or they're all over the place about what it is. And and again, I'm going to say another thing about the article. It talks about the targeted chaos that a group of individuals, I'm not going to mention names today because, I think we all know who they are, right? If you saw the screen, maybe you saw it, but their names have been published. So, they are, whether they want to be okay with it or not, or don't like it, just like, they are in some ways famous, sort of, right? Like I had with my last comic standing and whatever. And, I still have a YouTube channel. There's Rumble. I'm on social media. I've been in the public eye. I've been on the internet since it started, really. And I do have, and I know some of you guys have like found my footage from Occupy or whatever on some whatever. You found those things that I did live stream back then. I was live streaming before we had it. It was on I was when it was on Ustream. Because that's how people were communicating with each other when they are associated with the group that has a message. And you know what? We might not be able to I don't think we're ever going to get rid of groups and groups of people that come together because they have a message and they're pushing a message forward for change. That's the whole thing. And that's what protesting is. That's also part of our democracy. We are allowed to peacefully assemble with one another. We are allowed as citizens to make change in our country. That's the best part about our country and our government, is that we don't have like a king or a queen oppressing us or making people slaves or whatever. But sometimes, I don't know about you, I'm like, or do we have silent people pulling the strings, or mentally pushing somebody that maybe should be is geriatric into being a barking dog at the State of the Union. Like, is it safe to like wonder that, or am I going to get in trouble for saying that? Like, no, red is red and green is green, and that's green. I mean, like, you can't say 2 and 2 plus 2 is 6 when we know that is not the answer to the mathematical equation. It's like something doesn't look right. Is that okay? Can I say that? Like, can I make a joke about it, or am I going to get canceled? And that's kind of how I feel about the situation. When I do the breakdown, it's kind of like almost like creating the problem to give a solution that somebody's going to like pay money for to give the solution to. Is a little bit of how I question it. I'm not saying it is, but it's that thing inside my bones that goes, ugh. And it did affect us. It did. People lost their YouTube channels over it, of even speaking about it in a way that wasn't acceptable to the group in control of social media. And Dregs of YouTube too. I mean, I've watched a video that was uploaded last night. An interview with Thomas. And you know what? I wasn't going to play it, but I think with fair use, I mean, I'm just going to show a little bit of what it is. Maybe. Hold on. Yeah, maybe so. In a minute. In the video, like Thomas, because like the whole shadow box thing, and I'll just say it, there's two dialogues going on about it. But The Daily Beast article calls it what I showed in that screen share, in those words, right? Bots, targeted chaos on, their enemy or their opponent or whomever was like, talking out against Ed Butowski and questioning his truth. Those people would maybe be subjective to being what's happened to, I think, some of us here that might be listening to this. It's might be the same. It's the same. The names mentioned, and there's a name that's not mentioned, right? Like, we're going, who are the names? Who's the full names here in this equation? And both there's two narratives. No, Thomas said that. That's a Thomas thing. No, that's she said that. She said it. She was the one who was talking to the attorney. And I was the person that didn't have any say. But in the Dregs of YouTube video, Thomas did make a suggestion. He says, well, why don't you call, as a journalist, why don't you call Will Sommer and find out what really happened? Who said what? Or call up Vice and ask them what was sources or things or people that were behind, because David Schroeder's playing it a lot. It's still up on the internet. There's certain things on the internet that are still up. You got the DeFango rant, telling Beth, I'm coming after your family, I'm coming after this, whatever. But I thought, oh, maybe it's not him. Somebody's copied it and it's still out there, because I think, like, in the lawsuit that she won against them, those two guys or anybody's not allowed to defame her anymore. And if there's criminal consequences to it. To my understanding, I could be wrong, so don't totally quote me, but I think that's what is going on here. But, maybe some of that footage is up underneath other people's channels, which you can't control. However, the other person's channel that it's up might be connected to the person that actually really did it. Does that make any sense? Like, well, yeah, maybe, and I'm just theorizing. All right, let's just use DeFango, just to kind of say a little quarter out of the hot pocket. Okay, let's say, DeFango did make that video up, towards, Beth, but, he has a sock that he's uploading that to, and there's no way really identifying, or he has somebody else in the network that's going to do the targeted chaos that's mentioned in the Daily Beast article, and they're uploading it to their channel, but it's still the same group doing targeted chaos on people. And I think that could be a possibility. That in fact is exactly what's going on. Because, like, when you read an article and because I know it's happened to me, I feel like I'm one of those people that's being done to. And not only do they do it to you, but they also come into your personal life and, want to be your friend and want to tell you their side of the story and, does all those things that kind of creates a hook where you might side, or you might be looking at information through their lens because that's what they want you to do. Okay. And I feel like I have looked through, I've worn both sides lens. Right. But if you're doing like 360 reporting, you report all the sides. Like, you let And then somewhere in there, by fact checking or whatever, you're going to find out like what the truth is. Hopefully. And then after that, you got to hope that it's not, the FBI, the CIA or whatever, some intelligence agency doesn't have it in a vault and says you can't look at it for another 90 years or something. Right? Like, let's let out JFK stuff, and then still redact it, but we're gonna let you know a little bit of it, like actually what really happened. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Have a nice day. Thanks for making it daylight savings once again. Thanks. Anywho. I don't remember, Truther Girl. No, I don't remember her. Hi, Paul Shields. Fart in a jar. Thank you. I'm glad you thought that was funny. That's just awful. Does she have a college education? Like, it's kind of sad that, you go to college to get a degree so that you can, be a contributing member of society and make a decent wage, right? And then you realize that you can make more money by farting into a jar and selling it on TikTok. Yeah. Because you're fart girl, Yeah. Well, you know what? Hey, if the economy gets much worse, we might see more people farting in a jar and trying to make money. Because desperate times make desperate measures. All right. I'm gonna say, what time is it now? Okay, it's 11 o'clock. I've been yapping for an hour and a half, and I think I've dumped a bunch of information in some respects, or at least I hope something you find thought provoking in what you listen to. But if you don't, oh well, maybe you're not my demographic. Until next time, I will say goodbye.
Save my soul. Went up downtown. Went up downtown. Went up downtown. I want to save my soul. Went up downtown. I went up downtown. Went up downtown. I save my soul. I save my soul. I save my soul. I save my soul. My soul. I save my soul. Won't you save my soul? Pop, save my soul. Pop, save my soul. Pop, save my soul. Won't you save my soul? Pop, save my soul. Pop, save my soul. Pop, save my soul. Won't you save my soul? Pop, save my soul. Save my soul. Pop, save my soul. Pop, save my soul. Pop, save my soul. When it downtown, when it downtown, when it downtown. I was walking out one evening late.
Headed for the riverside, around us fuss and fight.